We can live a long, long time in an atmosphere of meditation and still keep our feet on the ground. Let us begin there quiet, unhurried, and without judgment. Breathe, if you like, but more than breath, let there be the recognition that we are not preparing to float away. We are here to witness a word becoming flesh, to watch a spiritual insight show itself as visible harmony in emails, at the family table, in the checkout line, and in the small crossings of our day. Be still and know that I am God is not an escape from life. It is the opening through which life under God's government enters our ordinary affairs. And so it is. Why should we keep our feet on the ground? Because the word must become flesh. Living in a dream world, separate and apart from our errands, our appointments, and our daily obligations would be no proof of the Father's care. The Master said, "Take no thought for your life," and directly after pointed to lilies and sparrows, very earthly things as signs of the invisible order. We are not here to manufacture a mood. We are here to consent that the presence, which goes before you to make the crooked places straight, may prove itself in places where our human cleverness usually takes over. The curt email, the delayed shipment, the late bus, the conversation that always turns the wrong way. If this is true, it must be true in those places. And therefore we begin calmly expecting that it shall be. Now, let us name our experiment, and in naming it, set a boundary for our own practice. For 30 days, we will cease calling people good or evil. We withdraw our labels. We refrain from praise and from blame, not because there is no such thing as right action or wrong action, but because good, as we shall discover, is invisible to human sense and cannot be contained in any person or performance. "Why callest thou me good?" asked the Master. "None is good save one, that is God." We will test that word not as a doctrine, but as a way of looking at each person as neither good nor evil, and we will observe what returns when we behold them thus. This is our ground rule. We keep our feet on the ground. We are not going to the mountaintop to stay. We are not escaping the news, nor our family responsibilities, nor the marketplace. We are inviting a quiet to walk with us into them. If you must answer the phone, you will answer. If you must attend the meeting, you will attend. Only before you speak, before you decide, you will be willing to stop short and turn within for a breath of recognition. I will say more of that pause in its time. But for now, let it be enough to know that the hinge of this experiment is not mental effort. It is yielding. "I, my own self, can do nothing," said the Master. If he could do nothing of himself, what of us? We can do nothing of ourselves. And that is very good news, because it frees us from the compulsion to judge and lets the invisible good come through. So our guiding question, the one we will carry like a lamp into the next 30 days, is this: what shifts practically, visibly, when we behold others beyond praise and blame? When the email arrives, sharp and hot, can we, even for a heartbeat, behold neither good nor evil in the sender, but a person, no label upon them, no weight of our approval or disapproval, just the bare fact of one who is, in truth, not held in our opinion at all? When the child slams the door, when the colleague takes credit, when the cashier moves more slowly than your schedule will allow, what happens if you withhold the crown and the cudgel, and even silently say within yourself, This one is neither good nor evil. The good, if there is any to behold, is not theirs to carry for me, not mine to drag from them. The good is invisible, and it is God. Do you see that we are not denying conduct, we are relocating value? It is the difference, as I have said elsewhere, not of two worlds, but of two concepts of the same universe. In one concept, we attach worth to the mask, the personality, the performance. In the other, we rest value in the source that never enters and never leaves, and therefore never fluctuates with our moods. All that the Father hath is mine is the statement of identity that does not lean upon applause and is not destroyed by blame. And as we grant that to our neighbor, even to the difficult neighbor, we begin to feel a loosening of the burden. We have carried the burden of making certain people angels and certain people devils. We release them. And in a very real sense, we release ourselves. What may we expect? Not fireworks, though, you may be surprised. More likely, a gentle straightening. A conversation that has always barked at your heels may lie down. An apology you were famished for may arrive without your arguments having won it. An ordinary shopping trip may cease to be a battleground. Invisible provision, not in the clouds, but at the kitchen sink, may show itself. We will not boast of these things, and we will not sentimentalize them. We will simply note them at the close of each day. As you brush your teeth or turn down the bed, just ask, what returned today when I withheld my labels? Fewer conflicts? A lighter body? The same problems, but less sting? We will track our fruit, and we will share it plainly, not as merit badges, but as witness that the word has flesh. Let us set the atmosphere now, for the room within us is the room we bring to every room we enter. In this space, for these few minutes, you are not being judged, neither praised nor condemned. You are not being measured by your history, your roles, or your mistakes. Neither do I condemn thee, is the law of this hour. We are practicing here what we will carry there. And as you sit in that freedom, as you taste what it is to be unburdened by the gaze of appraisal, consider that this is precisely the freedom you will offer others for 30 days. Not a permission to harm, not an abdication of wisdom, but a clear seeing that says, I will not search you for goodness, nor hunt you for evil. I will look to the Father and let the Father reveal what is needed now. And so we begin in calm and with purpose. We are not trying to become special. We are consenting to become simple. The presence that is closer than breath goes before us. The word that has lived in our prayers will take a form. I and the Father are one is not a line to embroider. It is the ground we will stand on in the email thread, at the family table, in the checkout line. For 30 days, we will watch together. For 30 days, we will withhold our labels and turn within before we speak. And then we will tell the truth about what happened. No embroidery, no excuses, just the quiet report that harmony did or did not appear. And where my confidence is not in our effort, but in the invisible love that is the only good. Let us be still together now, and in that stillness, let our feet find the ground. Why do we ask you to withdraw the labels? Why say again and again that people and events are neither good nor evil? Because the good is invisible. Because the value you seek is not in the object, not in the person as thing, not in the behavior as proof, but in the animating presence. That is love, life, God. Why should we make such a strange claim? Because our Master, when addressed as good, replied, Why callest thou me good? None is good save the Father. He refused the complement to personality so that we might learn to relocate goodness in source and not in form. And so it is. Now, you might protest, but surely a kind deed is good and a cruel deed is evil. In what sense is that so? And in what sense is that not so? In the sense that appearances register as pleasant or painful to human sense, you and I will prefer kindness to cruelty, a garden to a garbage heap, a smiling clerk to a scowling one. But in the deeper sense, where we would live if we would be free, the deed has no inherent power to bestow or remove the good. The good is invisible. The flower lay is not the fragrance. The lay is a form of love. But love lives in the heart that offered it, and deeper yet in the presence that caused love to rise. The ring is not the marriage. The ring may be lost, and the marriage stand. The banknote is not your supply. It may flow in and out, and your life be upheld. They are neither good nor evil. This is neither good nor evil. This is a traffic ticket. This is a weather report. This is a diagnosis. This is a praise-filled letter. This is a sharp rebuke from a boss. These are waves on the surface. The unseen ocean is your good. We are not advocating relativism. We are relocating value. We are not saying cruelty equals kindness. We are saying the label placed on an act does not touch the essence of identity, nor does it contain the creative substance of life. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, wrote James. From above, not meaning from the sky, but from the level of consciousness that is God, the Father within, the presence that goes before you to make the crooked places straight. If the good is from above, then no visible deed, no arrangement of circumstances can be the source of your good. It may be a channel, it may be a sign, but it is not the source. And when you cease to bind your heart to the channel, you are free to let the river find another bed. Habit says, praise this, condemn that. Habit says, make a God out of the helper and a devil out of the offender. And habit, is a taskmaster. Praise is a softer chain than blame, but a chain nonetheless. When you call me good on Monday, I must perform on Tuesday or lose the garland. When you condemn me as bad, I am trapped in your picture and tempted to defend or to defy. What happens when you withdraw the label? You release me and you release yourself. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Why? Not to make us timid, but to unhook us from the measuring tape that chafes both the measurer and the measured. When the label is withdrawn, there is room for the presence to appear. And when the presence appears, right action is natural, boundaries are clear without spite, and help flows without pride. Consider a simple scene. You are at the market, the clerk is abrupt. The habit is to stamp him rude and to stamp yourself injured. In that instant, you have already hardened the play into tragedy, and your next word will likely carry that hardness. But suppose you stop short inwardly, only for a breath, and you do not call the man rude, nor yourself offended. You do not call it good or evil. You allow it to be what it is, a sound, a face, a gesture, neither good nor evil. Where, then, is the good? Within, where the kingdom is. The kingdom of God is within you. In that space, something unplanned may come, a softer tone, a clear request, or even silence. And you will notice often that a tiny shift in you frees him from the part he was about to play. This is not magic. This is the word becoming flesh. But you say, what of a real wrong? A real injustice? Again, we are not proposing passivity. We are saying that the heat of condemnation clouds wisdom. while the withdrawal of labels opens righteous judgment. Remember, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment does not mean lenience toward harm. It means seeing through the mask of perpetrator and the mask of victim to the one life that, when acknowledged, reveals the straight path. Protect the child, report the fraud, refuse the abuse, and do it without enshrining an enemy in your heart. The act may require firmness, even swiftness, but the label is not needed. You will find, to your surprise, that action taken without the burden of he is evil carries authority without venom, and the aftermath lacks the inner bruise. The good is not in your revenge. The good is in the presence that directs your steps and then heals both the wound and the fear behind the wound. Think of the times you have lost something dear, a watch, a letter, a photograph, and the heart cried, "My good is gone." Was it? Or did you later discover that what you loved was not the thing, but the love behind it? Perhaps the photograph faded while the smile it captured became more vivid in memory than paper could ever hold. Perhaps the money left and supply reappeared by an unforeseen door. What changed? The source never changed. All that the Father hath is mine. When you believe that the good is in the coin, you tremble. When you know the good is in the invisible Father, you stand. To behold neither good nor evil in appearance is to turn from surface to source. It is to say, I my own self can do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. It is to look at the actor and refuse to make a god of him when he helps, or a devil of him when he fails. You may thank the helper. Yes, gratitude is right. But your heart bows to the source that moved through him, and therefore you do not cling. You may correct the offender. Yes, justice is right. But your heart withholds the dagger of identity assignment, and therefore you do not poison your own well. In both cases, you have withdrawn the labels and planted your feet in the invisible. I am not speaking of two different worlds, one of forms and one of spirits, as though we must hop between them. I am speaking of two concepts of the same universe. In one concept, we imagine that objects, persons, and events carry the power of good and evil, and we live as beggars of circumstance. In the other, we learn that the only good is God. The only life is the life within, and we walk as children in a house that is our Father's. The furniture may be moved, the rooms may be bright or dim, but the home is ours, and the atmosphere is peace. Now, where does this leave us in practice? If the good is not in the label, our first move is simple. We stop naming and we behold. We do not rush to classify the email, the glance, the tone of voice. We do not hurry to praise or to blame. We pause just that long enough to let the invisible presence be recognized. And from that recognition, a word or a silence, a step forward or a waiting will arise of itself. Take no thought, for it shall be given you in that hour what ye shall speak. That hour is not distant. It is the next breath. In withdrawing the labels, we are not emptying life. We are making room for life to come through. And so, as we go on, we will learn to make that pause a way of walking until visible harmony witnesses to an invisible peace. Now let us come nearer to the heart of it, to the simple seeing by which the invisible begins to take shape. You have heard me use this phrase, a person without qualities. That is not poetry, it is instruction. Persona, is a mask. In the theater, The mask lets the voice carry. It colors the character and suggests a story. But the actor is not the mask, and the mask is not the actor. John Barrymore could play Hamlet tonight, a beggar tomorrow, and a king on Saturday. But at no time was he the cardboard crown or the ragged cloak. So it is with us. We have worn roles: parent, boss, late payer, generous donor, the one with opinions, the one with a temper. These are voices through a mask. The true identity, the I that says I, is not the sum of the roles. The true identity is the Christ within, the sonship, the life of God individualized, the one of whom it is true, all that the Father hath is mine, and therefore free from the bondage of being measured by praise and blame. When I say behold a person without qualities, I mean practice this. Silently recognize this is a person, not a role, not a history, not my projection. This, in front of me, is not the difficult one, the star, the offender, or the hero. This is a person, neither good nor evil, as to essence. The good, if there be any, is of God. The evil, if there be any in conduct, is no selfhood and has no law, and so it can be corrected without condemnation. If you can hold even a minute of that scene without reaching for your label or your defense, the mask begins to loosen. When Peter, confronted with an ordinary man from Nazareth, could say, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God," he was not praising a personality. He was seeing through the mask. And the Master, you recall, turned the mirror and said, "Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee." That is our practice. We are not psychologizing. We are letting the Father reveal identity. You will say, but what of conduct? Does it not matter? Oh, conduct matters in its place. A broken window needs mending. A debt requires settlement. A boundary must be spoken and kept. The world has consequences, and wisdom honors them. Yet hear the paradox. We honor consequences and still refuse to make a self out of behavior. We refuse to crown the generous act as proof of goodness, or to nail the unkind act to the cross as proof of evil selfhood. "Why callest thou me good?" said the Master. "None is good, save one, that is God." I am not asking you to be naive. I am asking you to relocate where you place value, judge righteous judgment, which is to say, judge not after appearance, not after mask. Look within the moment for the life that is living all, and let that life guide your outward response. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more is both non-condemnation and boundary. Can you hear that tone in your own heart? The practical way begins, as all our ways begin, with humility. I, my own self, can do nothing. We will not, by human will, tear off another's mask or scrub their personality clean. We will not even rearrange our own successfully by effort. We stop short. We pause. We turn within, and we let the presence that goes before us make the crooked places straight. This inner confession, Father, I will not behold qualities. Reveal to me the person becomes a light. You can carry it into the hallway at work, into the kitchen where the conversation has a rut, into the grocery line where impatience forms like fog. No one need know. No announcements, no performance. Just a quiet refusal to feed the mask with your agreement, and a quiet consent to see the Christ identity underneath. Try it with the familiar antagonist, the one whose emails you brace against, before you open the message, say, "This is a person, not my history with them, not my headline about them, a person." Then open. Do the same with the beloved, the one you praise so readily. Before you speak, say, "This is a person, not my source of good, not the carrier of my joy. A person." You will notice an easing in both directions. Flattery will lose its compulsion. Resentment will lose its fuel. You will be free to speak clearly, to set a boundary, to ask a question, to say no or yes without the heat of identity wrapped around it, because identity has been given back to God where it belongs. I have watched rooms change on this alone. In classes where agitation had a voice, where a man's hand would shake with his story, we sat without judging, and the very atmosphere whispered, "You are not being measured here. You are a person, neither praised nor condemned." More than once, without a word of advice, the breath evened, the shoulders lowered, and what looked like intoxication became quiet alertness. What had changed? Not a sermon on morals, not an argument, only the removal of the weight of being good or evil in our eyes. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Whose mind? Yours and mine, as it turns from mask to presence. And in that turning, behavior often follows, not because we have pressed it, but because life under less judgment can breathe. You will find this in the small errands of your day. A cashier who seems brusque before you assign the trait. Behold the person. When you do, you will notice the next right word drops in. Thank you, take your time, or simply silence. The presence that goes before you will choose the word. In your home, the child who slams the door before you rehearse the narrative of disrespect. Behold the person. You may still speak, "In this house we close doors gently." And you may see without drama a softening you could not have produced by scolding. With a colleague who misses a deadline, behold the person. You may still change the timeline or the team. You may still require accountability. Only you will not make a self of the delay, and therefore your action will be clean. This is neither permissiveness nor harshness. This is obedience to the unseen order that holds each one as God's own. You will ask, does this seeing have power? Only all the power there is, because it withdraws your faith from appearances and rests it in the source. When you stop feeding a role with your praise or your blame, you stop hypnotizing yourself and the other with that role. When you behold the person, the Christ within, you make room for conscience to rise without your policing, room for creativity to show itself without your management, room for repentance without your indictment. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Where does the kingdom appear? In the smile that was not coerced, in the apology that needed no coaxing, in the phone call that arrives without your reminding, in the old grievance that somehow has no more heat. So it is. And so our revelation is simple and therefore strong. Transformation begins when we see through the mask and behold the person. Do not try to make it complicated. In the next conversation, in the next crossing, let there be a half breath where you say within, this is a person without qualities for me to manage, with identity anchored in God. Then see what the Father within brings. If a word is needed, it will be given. If a silence is truer, it will hold. If a boundary is loving, it will be set without the sting of superiority. And if nothing at all is needed but your restful seeing, You will witness the strange ease by which crookedness straightens when it is no longer being named crooked. I and the Father are one, said the Master, and he lived as if that was so for himself and for those before him. Let us live so, and watch as behavior follows identity rather than pretending to be it. Let us then give our revelation a way to walk. The Word must become flesh, and for that we will marry contemplation to measurement, not to trap spirit in a ledger, but to let the hush we have known in prayer prove itself as harmony in the hours. A simple experiment, 30 days, nothing grand, nothing that asks you to become someone else. The method in one sentence: stop short, turn within. Behold a person without qualities. Then speak or act as led. That is all. That is everything. Take no thought, for it shall be given you in that hour what ye shall speak. We shall test that hour. Because we are keeping our feet on the ground, we will keep count, not of merit, but of fruit. By their fruits ye shall know them. If the invisible presence governs, something visible will answer. Conflict will either lessen or it will not. Reconciliation will either bloom or it will not. Ease will either increase or it will not. And so, for 30 days, we will observe 5 simple metrics, not to strain, but to witness the presence that goes before you, making the crooked places straight. First, conflicts encountered versus diffused. Each day, make a small tally of moments that could have become quarrels, a sharp email, a raised voice at the table, a tense crossing in traffic. Number the times such moments arose, and then number the times they dissolved before taking form because you stopped short, turned within, and beheld neither good nor evil in the other. You will be surprised how many conflicts never had to be born. Second, reconciliations initiated and received. Note the times you felt led to make amends without being pressed, and the times another approached you unbidden. Do not force it. Let it be given. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled. You will find, as you withhold labels, reconciliations travel with less baggage. They knock at your door, and you are not too proud to open. Third, response latency, the small holy delay. Time yourself loosely. In conversations that heat, how many seconds pass between stimulus and your reply? Once you begin this practice, you will find a little clock inside that counts. 1, 2, 3. Do not be mechanical. This is not a trick. It is a token that you have turned within. Mark an average for the day. At month's end, you will see that the breath of God between impulse and word has grown longer, and in that space, wisdom has joined your tongue. Fourth, instances of renounced labels. Each time you notice the old habit, good, bad, rude, saint, villain, rise like a label maker in your head. And each time you consciously dissolve it, make a small mark. It is enough to say within, this is a person, neither good nor evil, in essence. The good is invisible, and it is God. Do not scold yourself for how many labels you catch. Rejoice that you are seeing. Fifth, a daily relational ease score, 1 to 10. In the quiet of evening, when the dishes are done or the lights are low, ask, how light was the traffic of my day? Did I feel carried or did I drag? Did sentences land softly? Did my body hold less armor? Give it a number and do not argue with it. Tomorrow is another day. Before you begin, there will be a day zero, a baseline. Without changing anything, simply observe one day as you have been living. How many conflicts How long, on average, before you speak when heated? How often did you apologize without prompting? How many labels did you notice? And how many did you renounce? What E-score suits that day? This is not a confession booth. It is a measuring stick laid quietly on the ground. We do this so that when the presence begins to show itself, you will have the sweetness of comparison, and your heart will say, "Not by my might, I, my own self, can do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works." Now, to carry out the days, you can keep a small card in your pocket, a note on your phone, or a corner of your planner reserved for the 5 counts. Nothing elaborate. Each evening, 2 minutes will suffice to mark the tallies and the E-score. If you miss a day, do not crown yourself bad or undisciplined. That too is a label. Begin again. The river does not scold the stone for being a stone. It simply flows. You will find that the act of remembering to remember the tiny thought, stop short, turn within, behold, becomes a friend walking with you into rooms before you know you are in them. Each 7th day, we will gather our notes, not to boast, not to lament. We will simply lay the numbers side by side and see the trend. More diffused, fewer entangled, more reconciliations knocking, fewer ultimatums needed, longer, cleaner pauses, labels noticed and set down as if they were warm stones in the hand, pleasant and then released, ease inching upward. If it is so, we give thanks. If it is not, we do not panic. We ask, have I kept the method? Have I made the pause? Have I beheld a person? Or have I flirted with personalities? Then we begin again. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing is not a one-time blaze. It is a rhythm, like tides. I must speak plainly here, for love is not blind. This protocol is not permission for harm. We are not wrapping the serpent in silk and calling it God. If there is dangerous behavior, you act promptly, sanely, without venom. Protect the child, end the call, step out of the house, dial the number that brings help, report the fraud, set the boundary in words that a judge would understand if need be. And as you do, refuse the label that would make a self out of the act. Refuse to worship the harm with your fear or to enthrone it with your hatred. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment sees through the mask while securing the door. Remember, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Within that tone is a law, and within that law is safety. There will be some who hear neither good nor evil, and attempt to make it a cloak for indifference. Do not follow them. The withdrawal of labels clears your sight. It does not paralyze your hands. Your action under God's government will be firmer and kinder because it carries no poison-tipped arrow of condemnation. You will sleep after acting because you have obeyed the inner leading rather than the outer shout. The presence that goes before you will make the crooked places straight in ways your anger could never engineer. Let us then visualize the weeks as rungs on a ladder. Week 1 will likely deliver the low-hanging fruit. Conflicts that did not need to happen simply do not happen. Week 2 will offer the sweetness of reconciliations that cannot be argued for yet somehow arrive. Week 3 will surprise you in errands. Provision will thread itself where you had braced for lack. Week 4 will widen the circle. Your practice will ripen into an atmosphere others can breathe. We are not racing to the top rung. We are consenting to each step. Stay for the unfolding, for at the close of each week we will tell the truth about what returned, and we will see together whether the invisible has honored its own law by showing up visible. Some will ask, must we be so precise? Is not spirit beyond numbers? Yes, spirit is beyond numbers. And because it is, it can afford a column of them. We do not weigh the wind to make it blow. We hang a ribbon on the fence to see the direction it has taken. So let your tallies be ribbons, bright and light. They will flutter. They will tell you this way. They will counsel patience on a gray day and keep you humble when the sun is strong. And so it is. Begin with a prayer so brief it cannot frighten your day. Father, I will stop short, turn within, and behold a person without qualities. Lead the word and the step, then close the prayer with trust, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Where will the kingdom appear? In the lower number of quarrels? In the gentler number of seconds before you speak? In the rising number of times you lay down your label? In an ease score that inches toward Sabbath while the calendar says Tuesday? These are not prizes. They are petals. They fall from a tree you did not plant, and yet you may gather them. We go on. Then, not as specialists of the inner life, but as children in our Father's house, we will watch. We will write a few numbers. We will not make a law of them. We will let the weeks speak. And when the 30th day dawns, we will not close the book. We will simply turn the page and keep walking, for the presence has never been bound to a calendar. What we began as an experiment will have become a way. And in that way, the word quiet as breath will keep becoming flesh. Now we let the word breathe in the body. We let the practice move from idea to the space between your ribs and your next word. This is simple. And because it is simple, it is strong. Be still and know that I am God. Not an hour of stillness now, just a moment, just a breath that consecrates the next step. So when the bell of tension rings, an email dings, a face clouds, a memory of a slight rises, stop short. Do not push through. Stop and turn within. Take one slow breath, not to control the other, not even to control yourself, but to remember, I, my own self, can do nothing. On the in-breath, say silently, I release good and evil. On the out-breath, I behold a person. Let the shoulders listen. Let the jaw loosen. Notice the field between you and the other. As you drop the label, the field drops its accusation. In that softening, ask within very simply, what is the next word, the next silence, the next step? Then wait 2 beats, the small holy delay. 1, 2. If a word comes, speak it. If a silence answers, let it hold. If a step is shown, take it. Take no thought, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. We are giving that hour 2 beats in which to arrive. Let us do this now, not as theory, but as live practice. Bring to mind a terse text. Perhaps you have one in your phone even this morning. Need this by 3. No greeting, no please. Feel the body's first reflex. See how quickly the label wants to leap. Rude, inconsiderate, always. That is the mask presenting itself for your cooperation. Stop short. Do not type. Do not rehearse your countercharge. Breath in, I release good and evil. Breath out, I behold a person. Notice the shoulders. Were they climbing? Let them lower. Notice the jaw. Was it ready to bite? Let it unhook. Sense, if you can, the little cord of heat between you and that name. See it slacken. Now ask within, Father, what is the next word? The next silence? The next step? Wait 2 beats. You may find the next word is not an arrow but a window. Received. I can deliver by 4, or we can review options, what serves. Or you may hear no word, only the step. Put the phone down, finish the present task, reply in 10 minutes with a clear yes or no. Or the next silence. Do not answer while agitated. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. When the presence provides the word, notice its tone. It lacks sarcasm. It lacks apology when none is needed. It carries clean boundaries. Let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay. This is not passivity, it is government. Now, as a part of our 30-day way, make a small note real time, 2 lines. Trigger, need this by 3. Urge to label, rude. Moment of release, 1 breath. Shoulders down. Response chosen. Offer a window with timing. There. You have made your ribbon flutter on the fence. You did not weigh the wind. You saw its direction. Tonight, when you tally, this will count among the conflicts that did not need to happen and did not happen. Not by cleverness. By 2 beats of obedience. Try another living scene. Because practice wants variety as much as it wants sincerity. Recall a recent slight at home, the cupboard left open after you have asked a dozen times, the door closed a little harder than necessary. The story starts up so quickly, careless, disrespectful, never learns. Catch it. Neither good nor evil. Mask, not person. Stop short. In breath, I release good and evil. Out breath, I behold the person. Feel the clavicles widen as if a window opened in the chest. Feel the face soften, not a smile put on, but effort draining out. Ask within, what is the next word? The next silence? The next step? 2 beats. Perhaps the next word is measured and simple. Please close the door gently. Perhaps the next step is to close it yourself and speak later when tempers are not preloaded. Perhaps the next silence is mercy, allowing the moment to pass without tightening the atmosphere into judgment. A soft answer turneth away wrath. And sometimes a soft answer is 4 clean words. Sometimes it is the absence of a lecture. You will know, not because you strategized, but because you withheld your agreement from the mask and let identity lead. As you practice, you will begin to sense the unspoken atmosphere, the field in which the conversation takes place. When you carry accusation, that field is prickly. Every word catches. When you carry non-judgment, that field is breathable. Even correction can land without bruising. Try naming it silently. Atmosphere without accusation. There is power in that naming. Not hypnotic power, but the power of truth. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment feels like this: clarity without poison, firmness without hardness, kindness without flattery. You know you are in it because your body bears witness. You are not armoring up to be right. The pause has stripped the armor. Now we will apply the micro pause in a meeting, because the office has its own liturgy. Someone interrupts you, takes credit for an idea you nurtured. The hate jumps label ready. Thief, showboat, always. Stop short. The meeting keeps moving. Your pause is 2 beats long. That is long enough. In breath, I release good and evil. Out breath, I behold a person. Ask within, what is the next word? You may find the word is a gentle reclaiming placed in time. To add, when I piloted that last quarter, we saw. You may find the next step is a private conversation after, not a public duel. You may find the next silence is the strongest witness in that room. Others saw and need no prodding. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. The fruit will tell you later which it was. For now, trust the two beats and the one who inhabits them. Do not imagine that the micropause is only for heat. It is also for praise. You are about to gush and crown someone. My source, make them your weather. Stop short. Breath in, I release good and evil. Breath out, I behold a person. Ask within, is this next word needed, or will it bind two beats? Then perhaps a sober gratitude, free of flattery, or a quiet smile. In both directions, the pause sets you and the other free. If in any of these scenes, the mind says, I am too late, I already spoke, I already sent it, do not weave a label for yourself. Fool, failure, hypocrite. That too is a mask. Begin again. Right now, if you wish. Pause, release, behold. It may be that the next step is amends. I spoke too quickly. Here is my clearer answer. Grace does not keep accounts as men keep accounts. His compassions fail not. They are new every morning, and sometimes new every minute. You will discover as these two beats multiply across the day that guidance accumulates like dew. The same presence that sent Elijah bread by ravens will send you your next word in aisle 4 by a nudge you cannot explain. The presence that goes before you will make the crooked places straight. Where? In the email thread that did not turn into a scuffle. In the living room, where door slamming became a shared laugh and a reset. In the boardroom, where credit was made a circle rather than a ladder. You will put a small mark in your journal and go on with your day, lighter by an ounce, and those ounces will add up. So the practice is this, and it is enough. Stop short, turn within, behold a person without qualities. Ask for the next word, the next silence, the next step. Wait 2 beats. Proceed gently. If the hour is urgent, the 2 beats are still yours. If the matter is trivial, let your speech be always with grace, says the apostle, seasoned with salt. The seasoning comes in the pause. The grace comes from the one who meets you there. And so it is. Week 1 has a way of showing us what never needed to be born. Before there is any grand healing to report, there is the hush between impulse and word. And in that hush you will notice sparks that once caught now fall harmlessly to the floor. The first fruit is small, and therefore pure. The reply that waits a breath. The text that does not carry a second, sharper sentence. The meeting that settles before the decibel meter rises. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, the apostle counsels. And you will find that the slowness here is not delay, it is governance. It is the presence that goes before you, meeting the conflict before you arrive. You have given it a moment to do so, and therefore it can. Early in the week, many of you wrote me or noted in your cards that something simple had shifted. Where there had been the old reflex, tap, send, defend, there was a micro pause. 3 counts, perhaps, sometimes 5, in which you turned within and said, this is a person, neither good nor evil in essence. Father, lead the word and the step. That was all. And because of that, The first storms passed as a mist passes when the sun climbs half an inch. You will have noticed it in your devices as much as in your rooms. The thread that used to thicken did not. The ellipsis bubble appeared and disappeared, and no harm was done. Be still and know that I am God is not poetry on a plaque. It is the architecture of week 1. Let me give you a scene many of you know. An email arrives, curt and narrow, with a sentence, "As I said, you missed the point," and perhaps an all-caps word or two. You feel the heat rise and the fingers go to the keys. In the past, you would have answered the person. You would have defended yourself, annotated their tone, and with that, made a mask into a self. This week, you stopped short. You turned within. You beheld a person without qualities. You whispered, "I, my own self, can do nothing. Father, what is the task here?" Then you wrote back and hear the difference. On the timeline, I see 2 items still open. I can deliver X by Friday. For Y, I need the revised numbers. Let me know if Friday meets the need. You named the task and not the person. And what happened? The next email came back. Friday works. I'll send the numbers by noon. No apology for tone, perhaps, but no escalation. The quarrel never took its first true breath. A soft answer turneth away wrath, the proverb says. And notice that the softness was not flattery or self-erasure. It was the removal of a label and the refusal to make identity the battleground. Another of you sat in a meeting where 2 colleagues were gathered to disagree. You could feel a script begin to run. Here is the aggressive one. Here is the avoidant one. The room tightened. You felt your old role creep in, the judge or the peacemaker with an edge. But you remembered the prayer and set a watch at your mouth. Within, you said, "These are persons. No role to uphold or condemn. Father," the next word. And it came not as a speech, but as a question. Can we name the outcome we both care about in one sentence? The room blinked, shoulders lowered. The 2 found 7 words to share, and from that, the heat found less oxygen. You had not manipulated. You had not even been clever. You had withdrawn fuel, judged not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Identity was not at stake, and therefore the stakes could be realigned around the work. When we cease to hypnotize one another with our praise and blame, conscience and creativity slip back into the room as if by a side door. I recall the promise, "He shall give his angels charge over thee." And in that hour, angels looked like an honest sentence shared, and a table that did not rattle. Because we are keeping our feet on the ground, we will not be shy about looking at the ribbons on the fence. In more than one of your notebooks, the column for conflicts encountered began robust. The life we lead is busy enough to offer many crossings. But beside it, the column for conflicts diffused started to thicken in a way that surprised you. One wrote, 7 moments today that could have gone sideways. 5 melted when I paused. Another noted 3 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. Without the label in my mind, I didn't need the speech in my mouth. Response latency, which on day 0 read like a dash. 1 second, no breath stretched into 3, sometimes 6. That little inner clock kept time, and in those counts a better word landed. The tally of renounced labels grew like shells collected on a beach. Rude, saint, always late, genius, victim, set down, set down, set down. Your evening E-score crept upward. Where 4 had felt honest on baseline, 6 and then 7 felt equally honest by the end of the week. Not as triumphs, but as the body telling you you did not wear armor all day. What is the lesson that wants to etch itself into us here? Not every fire is ours to stoke. Many quarrels evaporate when identity is not up for debate. If the email is not about your goodness or your badness, it becomes easy to ask, what is needed by Friday? If the meeting is not about proving one of you right and the other wrong as persons, it becomes possible to say, what result do we share? If the text from a loved one carries the ancient you never, your pause allows you to see that this too is a person, not a history, and to answer, I can talk at 6. If timing is the issue, let's make a new plan instead of litigating the never with a decade of data. You are not abandoning clarity. You are releasing the burden of being the good one, the sharp one, the wronged one, or the victorious one, because you have remembered none is good, save one, that is, God. Good is invisible, and when it is allowed to be invisible, it appears as harmony with no one taking credit. I must remind you of the real doer in this. You did not engineer these de-escalations. Your part was the turn. I, my own self, can do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. The presence that goes before you had already met the field. You simply ceased to outrun it with your human hurry. How else do you explain the email that gentled without your cleverness? The colleague who volunteered the missing fact before you cross-examined? The customer service agent who found an extra path when you chose not to annotate their tone? Sometimes you even watched the conflict unhappen, a second text that corrected the first before you answered. A face that softened when you chose to see a person instead of a trait. We call these small, but they are the word becoming flesh. Right here where you spend your hours, were there moments that still broke into argument? Yes. And when they did, you discovered that acting clearly without the poison of condemnation left you steady. You could say no. You could end the call. You could ask for a supervisor. You could walk outside and breathe. And you slept, not as the one who won or lost, but as the one who obeyed the inner governance. The tally for that day did not shame you. It told the truth and pointed you back to the pause. Tomorrow would offer fresh ground. So week 1 speaks this quiet truth over us. Much of the storm in our days is manufactured by our labels, and when the labels are withdrawn, weather clears. Conflicts that did not need to happen do not happen. Those that must be met are met by a calmer heart. The numbers on your card are not trophies. They are witnesses. The presence is faithful. And when you give it 3 seconds, it takes the whole hour. Let this encourage you. We are not finished. We are only beginning. But the beginning bears its own fruit, and it is sweet. Week 2 arrives not with fanfare, but with the hush that follows a storm that did not quite become a storm. In week 1, we learned how much heat could be spared by 2 beats of obedience. Now, with the air clearer, hearts begin to open, and we discover another law. Reconciliation flowers when we release the burden of being right and simply behold the person, not the personality, not the mask. A person without qualities, neither good nor evil as to essence. The good remains invisible God, and it does its own shepherding. You will notice a change in the way apologies appear. They are not negotiated settlements where terms are argued and moral scoreboards adjusted. They are gifts given and received because condemnation has lost its throne. Neither do I condemn thee, said the Master. And in that sentence, a woman stood up straighter than every sermon could have made her. Why? Because non-condemnation frees the natural intelligence of the soul to correct its course. Godly sorrow worketh repentance, not the sorrow of shame under human eyes, but the tender conviction that rises when the inner witness is trusted. I, my own self, can do nothing, and I cannot make another do anything. But I can behold. I can remove my thumb from the scales. I can stop worshiping the mistake with my fear, or enthroning the offender with my blame. Then the presence that goes before me makes the crooked places straight where words could only make ruts. Let me tell you, quietly, a scene you may recognize in your own house. A family member, let us say a grown child, comes into the kitchen with the posture of defense already nailed in place. There has been a string of small breaches, late returns of the car, dishes left, a borrowed sum not yet repaid, and one sharp exchange 2 nights ago that left the room colder. In the old order, the script would be ready. You always, you never, I only, because you. But you have been practicing. You stop short. In breath, I release good and evil. Out breath, I behold a person. You do not rehearse your points. You do not try to look holy. You let the shoulders drop and the eyes soften because you are laying down your case. The case is a mask, a fine one perhaps, moral in its stitching. It is still a mask. He begins. I know you're going to say I'm irresponsible. And you do not take the bait. You are not at war, you say, with no irony. No, I wanted to hear how you are. Silence. The muscles of his face do not know where to hang. I messed up with the money, he says, voice smaller than before. I got scared I couldn't fix it, so I avoided you. And then I felt like a child again, and I got mad. Tears, not as theater, but as weather, when high pressure moves out. You do not use the opening to step on his heart with admonitions you have banked. Thank you, you say. We can make a plan. Then very simply, as led practical amends, a small repayment schedule written on the calendar that evening, a shared trip to the bank tomorrow to set up an automatic transfer, an agreement about the car keys laid out like traffic signs rather than traps. No groveling required. No coronation of good son or bad son. A person stood there. You beheld a person. He felt seen, not sized up. An intelligence which had been jammed by accusation flowed. A soft answer turneth away wrath, and sometimes it turns it into tears that water the roots. Now look at your ribbon on the fence. Your card for week 2 may show a gentle drift in the numbers, not because you tried to be spiritual, but because you stopped trying to be right. Reconciliations initiated 1, 2, perhaps 3 in 7 days. Where before you waited for the other to move or for the air to clear by itself. Reconciliations received. One arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. An email. Can we talk? I wasn't fair yesterday. Your average time from tension to a constructive conversation is no longer measured in days. On day 0, it might have been a weekend of tightness before anyone broke the ice. In week 2, it is, let us say, in proportion, measured in hours, sometimes in minutes. This is not magic. It is a law expressing when labels are withdrawn, the road is unblocked. The presence does not need much time. It needs willingness. Agree with thine adversary quickly, not by capitulating to error, but by agreeing with the Christ within the so-called adversary and within you, quickly, before the lawyers of the mind turn the room into a courtroom. You may ask, But what if I am the one in the wrong? Then the same law holds, and perhaps you will see it with even more clarity. Do not crown yourself bad. That is another way of protecting the mask. Stop short. Turn within. Behold a person, yes, this one bearing your own name without qualities. Then ask for the next word, and you will find that amends are not humiliations, but honest repairs. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled. You will write simply, I spoke sharply, I regret it. Here is what I will do differently next time. That is all. No bargaining. No trying to extract your own forgiveness ticket. You will be amazed how swiftly the room breathes again when you do not use apology as a rhetorical ploy. I would urge you now, as an assignment in week 2, spend more time beholding this truth about your critics than about your friends. And this is the hard one about your own self after you slip. Bless them that curse you, not through gritted teeth, but by releasing them from your coronations and your condemnations. 5 times a day, for 10 seconds, bring to mind the one whose comment stung you last week, and say within, Father, I behold your child here, a person without qualities. Govern this field. Then do the same for yourself when your conscience pricks. Father, not by my might. I accept correction without label. Watch how the heat that used to be spent on a private courtroom is now available for quiet action. You will find, curiously, that those who once seemed immovable begin to turn not because you pushed, but because you stopped pushing. Do not misuse this law. It is not a recipe for passivity, nor is it a denial of boundaries. We spoke of that. It is a way of acting, if action is called for, without the toxin of condemnation. Sometimes reconciliation looks like a clear no. Sometimes it is a letter drafted with dates and facts. Sometimes it is a listening ear without a single piece of advice. Righteous judgment discerns form, while it refuses to define identity by that form. You will know you are in righteous judgment when there is no aftertaste of superiority in your mouth. By the close of week 2, you may notice small domestic sacraments, a mug washed without a sigh, a text that begins with may I, where once it began with you should, a hand placed on your shoulder after dinner. These are petals quietly falling from a tree you did not plant. Do not rush to pick them up and make a garland for your ego. Note them, give thanks, and keep your 2 beats. Be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Tender-heartedness is not mush. It is strength without hardness. It is the fruit of beholding. And so we proceed, day by day, with our small tallies as ribbons, not to weigh the spirit, but to witness its direction. If one day yields no reconciliation, do not despair. You are not manufacturing fruit. You are consenting to a vine that bears in its own season. When it comes, it will come without persuasion, because we have laid down the need to win and picked up the willingness to see. The word we have heard in the secret place is becoming flesh in the kitchen, in the office hallway, on a park bench at dusk. The presence that goes before you is speaking a language everyone understands when there is no judge on the bench. Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. In that atmosphere, people, including you, discover they can, and so they do. By week 3, the practice has begun to breathe on its own. You do not strain for it. It meets you in the aisles and the sidewalks. This is the point where the word must become flesh, or it is no word at all. If there is a God presence that governs, It must govern where you push a cart, tap a card, wait for a light. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We are not seeking things. And yet, when the atmosphere of judgment lifts, life, very simple, life arranges itself with an ease. You did not engineer. As judgment recedes, everyday life becomes a field where quiet provision naturally appears. Consider the grocery. You arrive at the hour when everyone else thought it would be quiet. The lines have stacked. A light blinks. A child is wailing in produce. Your old habit names it. Chaos. Bad timing. This store is always a mess. Stop short. This moment, too, is neither good nor evil. Turn within. In breath, I release good and evil. Out breath, I behold persons. Cashier. Mother. Man with 3 rotisserie chickens. Persons without qualities. I, my own self, can do nothing. Father. The next step. 2 beats. The next word in you is not a complaint but a kindness. Take your time. I'm not in a rush. You mean it, because the rush you released is not about the line. It was about being a self among selves. Atmosphere shifts by an ounce. And an ounce is enough. The manager, who had been scanning the crowd, flips on a light you did not see. A new lane opens, and without you jockeying, the woman with the full cart waves you forward with your 2 items. Go ahead. You step, not with triumph, but with gratitude. The cashier, who had been bracing for the next sigh, smiles. Her hands move sure. A price override resolves on the first try. You saved 4 minutes, perhaps. On your card later, you write, unexpected help. Lane opened, waved ahead. Time saved, 4 minutes. Unsolicited cooperation, 2. You could have called it luck. You know it as the presence allowed to govern because you withdrew your verdict from the room. On the road, the same law proves itself. Rush hour at the merge, where character is assigned by the inch. The old voice says, cutter, entitled, always, neither good nor evil. Stop short, in-breath, release, out-breath, behold, Father, the next step, 2 beats. You lift a hand to make space for the blinker that flashed late. You slow half a car length, not to be noble, but because identity is not being defended here. The car slides in. The knot ahead loosens 1 link earlier than it would have. A truck in the next lane responds to the change and grants you an opening you did not force. Courtesy found the lane. A minute shaved off? Maybe 2. More to the point, the air remained breathable in your chest. He shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. Angels today look like a driver who, seeing one mercy given, found one to give. You did not call it forth by will. You simply refused to write a script of enemies and heroes, and so the presence wrote a different line. These are small, and so they are honest. A neighbor you had not seen in weeks calls as you reach for the stepladder. I'm clearing out the garage. Need a taller ladder for anything? And the bulb above your staircase is changed in 5 minutes with no wobbling on a chair. You arrive at the pharmacy to find a cancellation slot open for the shot you thought you would schedule next week. The clerk at the counter, whom you did not praise as your source, finds the coupon that your brain would have missed and says, this applies. The package that might have sat in the back of a truck comes before noon because the route ran another way today. Each of these, without fanfare, feels like air returning to a room after a window is cracked. You did not chant up the window. You let go of calling the room stale, and the source did the rest. Take no thought for your life, for your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. Because we are measuring, we notice the thread. In your week 3 tallies, a new column began to grow. Unexpected helps. One of you marked 11 in 5 days. Lane opened, door held when both hands were full. Stranger said, "You drop this." Bank resolved a fee without request. Time saved, accumulated in honest minutes. 3 here, 7 there, 1.5 that would have gone to finding a lost receipt that appeared exactly where you looked first, now seen. Instances of unsolicited cooperation read like a quiet litany. Neighbor texted about package. Barista corrected order before I spoke. Customer answered their own objection in meeting. On the same page, you traced back the cause as best you could. Number of micro pauses offered that day. On days with many pauses, provision notes thickened. On the day you sped and judged, the page thinned. Not superstition, pattern. The word becoming flesh where you live. Now, let us be clear so that the mind does not make mischief. This is not magic, and it is not manipulation. We are not moving people like chessmen, nor are we conjuring parking spaces by decree. We are consenting to an order that already is, and ceasing to oppose it with our hurry, our blame, and our secret worship of appearances. Good is invisible. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is, God. When the clerk smiles, when the lane opens, when the neighbor calls, do not crown the form. Thank the person. Honor the presence. Outwardly, say, thank you. Inwardly, say, thank you. Do not attribute goodness to the thing or to yourself, as if your holiness earned a coupon. Do not condemn the delay as evil if the lane does not open. Neither good nor evil. The value is not in the form. It is in the love that passes through forms unannounced. You will notice, too, that you are not made passive by this. The pause that welcomes provision also gives clean direction. You still ask the clerk a clear question. You still choose a different route when that is the step. You still say, I cannot today, but Friday I can, to the neighbor who invites you into a project you cannot carry. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Direction and provision are twins. The Father within does the works, and you take the step shown. By the end of week 3, a quiet confidence begins to settle. Errands are not enemies. The day is not a gauntlet. You carry an atmosphere that does not accuse the world of withholding from you, and the world, relieved of the accusation, stops bristling. You find yourself whispering not, I hope it goes my way, but, Father, I am in your way. Let the next word, the next silence, the next step be yours. And then, in the checkout and the crosswalk, it is given you in that same hour what you shall do. The word has become flesh, not in a temple, apart from life, but here, between the cereal and the milk, at mile marker 12, at the pharmacy window. And so it is. Week 4 does not trumpet its arrival. It happens the way morning happens. The light is simply there, and you realize the room has changed. What began as a private obedience, and then a reconciling of twos, has become a shared field. The atmosphere itself is different. It is as if the judge's bench in the middle of the table has been rolled out of the room, and no one misses it. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. We are not gathered in the name of being right or being impressive. We are gathered in the name of the one who is beyond praise and blame, and therefore free. Non-judgment shared becomes culture. And culture is simply the word become flesh in a room. You will notice this in teams first, because teams reveal our habits in chorus. In week 4, a meeting that used to begin with subtle posturing now opens with testimony. Not flattery, not blame testimony. What worked yesterday was the checklist. It spared 2 corrections. What we learned is that the handoff at step 3 still needs a clear owner. What love supplied was time. We finished with 10 minutes to spare. Hear it. No halos, no horns, no one enthroned as savior, no one cast as goat. The good is invisible God, and when we let it remain invisible, it expresses as visible order without anybody collecting royalties for it. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is, God. So we speak of process as servant, of learning as gift, of provision as presence, and the oxygen that once fed ego fires now feeds usefulness. Let us keep our feet on the ground and take our little snapshot, because week 4 loves numbers that tell the truth without boasting. One team wrote on their card, in May, our average meeting ran 70 minutes. In this 4th week, we closed at 48, with the same scope. Interruptions, which we counted as talking over, sidebars, and reactive, no, but dropped from 9 in the hour to 3, and sometimes to 1. Decisions made with agreement on the first pass, by which we mean no need for 3 rehashes, rose from 4 in 10 to 7 in 10. You will say, perhaps, is that spiritual? It is the word becoming flesh, and so it is. Let all things be done decently and in order, wrote the apostle. And order is not a human imposition here. It is the order that appears when labels are not scrambling our attention. You could feel it in your body. At the end of the meeting, shoulders were lower, jaws were unclenched, and curious metric that it is, the hallway conversation after was gentle rather than picketing. Families feel it too. At supper, you used to arrange yourselves as characters. The martyr doing the dishes, the critic patrolling the table, the silent one hiding in the weather of it all. In week 4, because you have practiced beholding a person without qualities, the roles do not find purchase. A glass tips, milk pours across the placemat, the label leaps toward the child. Clumsy, always still, you stop short. In-breath, I release good and evil. Out-breath, I behold the person. You hand the towel without a sermon. Let's get this together, you say. Not as a strategy to be the good parent, but because identity is not at stake, and therefore help is simple. The child's chin lifts. The flush leaves in half a minute. And this will make some of you smile. The dog, who would have started pacing at the rise of heat, lies back down. Even the cat comes out from under the chair. You will ask, do they understand theology? No. They breathe the field. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. And when the pasture in the room is green, with non-judgment, creatures, young and old, lie down in a circle of friends, where before the talk tilted toward praise or complaint, you begin to notice another conversation emerging, one that sounds like weather, accurate, kind, unheeded. I see, I kept volunteering for tasks I resent. I am learning to say a clean no. I found that when I did the 2 beats before texting, the thread cost me 20 minutes instead of 2 hours and left none of us sour. These are gentle testimonies. They replace the intoxicating highs of flattery and the corrosive lows of blame. We will not call each other saints for small obediences. We will not call each other fools for our misses. We will hold one another as persons without qualities, and because of that, intelligence circulates. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. Confession here is not public self-scourging. It is naming what worked and what we learned, so the healing of order can spread. You will see the ethics of this clarify themselves before your eyes. We owe it to one another to know our neighbor as we would be known beyond qualities. That is not sentimental. It is the one debt that liberates all other accounts. Your colleague does not owe you brilliance on demand. They owe you their work. You do not owe them worship. You owe them the dignity of being known as more than the mask that presented at 9 o'clock with coffee on the shirt. Your child does not owe you a performance that props up your identity. They owe you themselves, which is to say, a person in process, governed by a presence that loves them more than you do. When we owe each other that kind of knowing, praise is currency and blame is cudgel fade. Courtesy returns, clarity flourishes. Accountability is no longer a courtroom but a set of traffic signs the whole village agrees to read. Now, if you listen beneath the numbers and the anecdotes, you will hear a quieter law at work. Shared non-judgment decentralizes control and centralizes guidance. In week 1 and 2, you discovered that the next word comes when you wait 2 beats. In week 4, you discover that the next word for the group arrives in the same way. In the meeting, someone begins to argue, the volume ready to climb. Another, not the boss, perhaps not even the most senior, takes the 2 beats and asks within, Father, what serves the whole? The question that comes is simple, and it breaks the tangle. What outcome are we protecting? Or what would Friday's version of us thank us for deciding now? The room exhales. The presence that goes before you has found a mouth, and sometimes 3 or 4 nod without needing to be convinced. It shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. It is given not to the star, but to the circle, because the circle has ceased to manufacture stars and villains. There is a sweetness in week 4 that cannot be manufactured because it is not a mood. It is a climate. You walk into the office and it feels breathable. You sit at the table and notice that time has a little more give. You pick up your child from school and the first words home are not a defense but a story. The numbers on your card will say it in their quiet way. Fewer escalations, shorter cycles to decision, more first-pass agreements, evenings with less residue. But your heart will know it even if you lost your card. The shepherding is real. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. And so we say thank you, not to ourselves, not to our technique, but to the source that has proven again that it governs when we get out of the way. Do not think we are finished. Culture is a living thing. It must be fed. How do we feed it? By continuing the same small obedience we have practiced from the first day. It is always this: stop short, turn within, behold a person without qualities, ask for the next word, the next silence, the next step, and proceed gently, in pairs, in teams, in families, in circles. When we forget and praise too highly or blame too sharply, we make amends not as penance, but as repair, and the field holds. All that the Father hath is mine, said the Master. And in week 4, we begin to see that ours is not a private inheritance. It is a communal table. Love supplies. We testify. The word becomes flesh among us. And so it is. Now, because we are keeping our feet on the ground, Let us welcome the questions that rise whenever love is taught without condemnation. What about boundaries? What about justice? What about the simple, unromantic business of getting through a Saturday at the grocery with your peace and your groceries intact? This is not a place for slogans. The word must become flesh. We are not speaking of an airy goodness that cannot lift a phone or sign a form. We are speaking of beholding beyond good and evil in a way that strengthens, not weakens. Clear action, safety, and justice. Judge not according to the appearance, said the Master, but judge righteous judgment. There is the distinction. Judgment, as we use the word here, is the habit of making identity out of appearance. Good person, bad person, my savior, my foe. Discernment is something else. It is the sober seeing of facts and the choosing of steps without pronouncing on the soul. So then, does seeing neither good nor evil excuse harm? Never. It removes the intoxication that keeps us from doing what must be done. Love does not bypass law. Love purifies motive. The same scripture that bids us bless them that curse us also instructs, let your yea be yea and your nay, nay. The apostle, very practical, reminds us that the powers that be are ordained of God, which is to say, there is a right use of authority in human affairs. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Render unto God the things that are God's. When wrongdoing occurs, we do not perfume it with metaphysics. We address it with clarity. We involve the proper channels, and we do it without hatred. That is righteous judgment. The good is invisible God, and when we stand in that good, our actions in the visible realm become clean. Safety first is not a slogan. It is obedience to the presence that values life. If you are threatened, if a hand is raised against you, if a voice in the parking lot is growing sharper and the distance is closing, this is not the moment to compose a spiritual essay. Stop short. Turn within. In-breath. I release good and evil. Out-breath. I behold a person. And then act swiftly. Get to light. Get to people. Get to a locked car. Call for help. Involve the authorities. Ask the store manager to walk you out. You do not engage in moral debates with adrenaline in your mouth. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Harmless does not mean available to be harmed. Harmless means non-venomous, clean of hatred, while utterly practical. You will notice that in such moments, the two-beat pause does not slow you into danger. It delivers you from panic into clarity. The presence that goes before you makes the crooked places straight, sometimes by sending an employee in a bright vest at the exact second you turned within. The soul you refuse to label evil remains God's concern. Their behavior meets consequences. And you, God's beloved, choose safety without poison in your blood. In the workplace, too, discernment is love in sturdy shoes. Suppose you discover that figures have been altered, that a colleague has crossed a boundary that endangers clients. This is not the hour to sermonize to yourself about everyone's inner Christ in a way that keeps you passive. It is the hour to stop short, release your labels, behold a person, and then write the email that documents the facts. It is the hour to speak to the supervisor. It may be the hour to call the ethics hotline. You do not smear. You do not gossip. You do not dress your fear in virtue and delay. You act because mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Mercy for the soul, truth for the deed. Justice, in human terms, is the shape love takes when it protects the many from the one who is acting out of ignorance or willfulness. You are not the judge of identity. You are a steward of safety. I, my own self, can do nothing. And yet, through me, a clean no may be spoken, a report filed, a boundary drawn. Let your nay be nay, and let it come from the stillness that refuses to make an enemy. What of the judge that lives within? The one who is swift to convict you even as you are learning. He is eloquent. He brings exhibits A through Z. Tone you used, promise forgotten, boundary slid. He crowned you with a name you will recognize. Careless, hypocrite, always. Beloved, the same law applies here. The inner prosecutor is another mask. Stop short. Turn within. In breath. I release good and evil. Out breath. I behold a person, this person, bearing my name without qualities. If our heart condemn us, God is greater than our heart. Let that larger knowing in. Ask very simply, Father, what is mine to do now in love? It may be to apologize. It may be to repair. It may be to alter a system, set an alarm, share a calendar, put keys in a bowl by the door so that you support your future self. It may be to accept the consequence because that consequence is a teacher. It is never to rehearse self-hatred as if repetition were repentance. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. That is the prayer, and the answer comes dressed as a step. When you have taken it, rest. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. No condemnation does not mean no correction. It means correction without shame. Now to the grocery store test, because spirituality that cannot go through aisle 7 is not yet government. You are in line. The register light blinks. The price won't scan. The child, 2 carts ahead, chooses this as the moment to find his lungs. The mind is quick, incompetent, inconsiderate, chaos. Stop short. In breath. I release good and evil. Out breath. I behold persons. Ask, what is mine to do now in love? Perhaps it is to wait simply, as if waiting were not a failure but a gift of 60 seconds to breathe. Perhaps it is to catch the jar that just rolled off the edge and set it back without commentary. Perhaps it is to say to the clerk kindly, could you check if there's another line? Perhaps it is to look at the parent and let your eyes say, you're not being judged. If someone cuts, you need not spiritualize rudeness. You can say, the line starts there with a tone that keeps the temperature where it belongs. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt. Salt seasons. It does not scorch. The micro pause keeps you from carrying accusation into the sentence. Righteous judgment discerns form. There is a line without making identity a verdict. On the road, the test repeats itself with wheels. A car swerves in front of you and your chest tightens. Labels leap up. Stop short without stopping the car. In breath as you hold your lane, I release good and evil. Out breath. I behold a person. Ask, what is mine to do in love now? Perhaps it is to let distance grow. Perhaps it is to exit and drink water while your nervous system unclenches. It is not to chase. It is not to teach a lesson with your bumper. Answer not a fool according to his folly, the proverb says, not because the other is a fool as to identity, but because to imitate folly is to forget yourself, Turn the other cheek is not an invitation to be struck twice. It is a refusal to meet heat with heat. You return no one's ignorance to them. You return only your obedience to the presence. Your inbox is also a field where boundaries and love meet. A message arrives asking for your bank details. Another arrives accusing you of delay with a CC you would not have chosen. Stop short. In breath. I release good and evil. Out breath. I behold a person. Ask, what is mine to do? For the scam, delete, report, block. Be wise as serpents. For the accusation, reply with facts. Strip out the editorial. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Sometimes that door is a send button that waits until your body is no longer burning. But what if the larger matters policy, prejudice, the ones that haunt headlines? Does beholding without condemnation lead to apathy? It cannot if it is real. When you cease to hate, you do not cease to act. You cease to act from poison. He hath shewed thee, O man, what is good. And what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God? Do justly, write to your council member, vote, serve on the committee, show up at the meeting, love mercy. Refuse to demonize the one on the other microphone. See a person, speak with clean edges, walk humbly, turn within before the speech. Ask for the next word, and if no word comes, the next step. You may be led to stand in a courtroom as a witness, to sign an affidavit, to raise funds, to mentor, to change hiring practices. Let your activism be sacramental, not theatrical. The presence that goes before you is strategist enough. It will place you in the right place at the right hour when you are not fueled by fury. For those keeping the 30-day notes, do not be shy to count these too. Write down the times you chose safety promptly. Mark the moments you reported harm without malice. Note when you corrected yourself without the lash of shame. Put a ribbon for the day, you said. The line starts there, and peace held. These are not small. They are the word becoming flesh in aisles and intersections and inboxes. They tell you what your nervous system already knows. Beholding beyond good and evil makes you steadier, not softer-headed, more available to truth, not less, more precise, not punitive. Perfect love casteth out fear. Not information about love. Love realized, turned within, breathed into the next step. When fear loses its throne, decisions improve. So the grocery store test is not a detour, it is the road. Boundaries are not the enemy of love. They are the geometry by which love moves through time. Justice is not vengeance. It is order suffused with mercy. And all of this is practical only to the degree that you and I stop short, turn within, refuse to name another soul evil, and yet do the next firm, clean thing. As we do, a curious thing happens in the places we frequent. The clerk meets your eyes longer next time. The driver you let in waves, and perhaps lets another in down the road. The parent remembers a stranger's non-judgment and finds a gentler word at bedtime. A shared field begins to form without praise or blame, and the presence that goes before you keeps making the crooked places straight at the register, at the stoplight, at the city hall. We will not romanticize this. We will simply continue. Tomorrow we'll ask again, what is mine to do now in love? And by grace, we will know and we will do it. 30 days is a small span. And yet, what a field it has given us to prove a simple law. Withdraw the labels of good and evil. Behold a person without qualities through a turn within micropause, and visible harmony appears. The word became flesh, not as fireworks, but as order, as lighter rooms, as decisions made without bruising. We kept our feet on the ground, and we counted what could be counted without pride. By their fruits ye shall know them. And the fruit here was humble and unmistakable. Look at your trend lines, not as trophies, but as witnesses. Conflicts that did not need to happen did not happen. Those that remained were met sooner and gentler. Response latency, the small measure of obedience, grew from a dash to 3 beats. Sometimes 5. Reconciliations that once took a weekend of stalemate began to occur within the hour, sometimes before lunch. Words softened without growing vague. You named the task instead of the person, and work happened without the toll we once assumed was inevitable. Evenings ended with less residue. Your ease score, as some of you called it, rose by a point or 2, not because life turned to silk, but because condemnation did not ride home with you. Meetings shrank to fit their purpose. Interruptions thinned. First pass agreements rose. In errands, of all places, provision showed lines moved. A clerk bent the rule that was never a rule. A parking space opened like a hand. We did not conjure these. We witnessed them, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. And that spirit proved itself in the aisles and at the tables. What surprised us? That seconds suffice. The micropause that seemed too small to matter was great enough to let the presence go before and make a path. That enemies did not need to be persuaded to soften. They needed only to be released from the labels we pinned on them in secret council. That our own bodies understood peace before our minds did. Shoulders dropped, breath lengthened, sleep lost its grudge. That non-judgment shared becomes an atmosphere in which even animals grow calm, and children tell the truth without being cornered into it. And perhaps this, most of all, that when the good is allowed to remain invisible, why callest thou me good? None is good save the Father. It appears everywhere as usefulness. And no one need collect it for a shrine. Let us say clearly, so there is no mist about it. The experiment proved practical. We are not speaking of a dream world, but of 2 concepts of the same universe. And we have chosen the one governed by the presence. Withdrawing labels and turning within yielded visible harmony, and because it did, we continue. We do not continue out of ambition, but out of gratitude. He which hath begun a good work in you will perform it, but only if you and I do not take the reins back into our human hands and drive. So we seal the practice. Make the turn within micropause a rule of life, not as a rigidity, but as a Sabbath inside your breath. Stop short. Turn within. Behold a person without qualities, this one before you, this one in your own mirror. In that seeing, say, I my own self can do nothing. Father, show the next word or the next silence. Then act, not slowly for the sake of slowness, but in step. If it is a yes, let it be a clean yes. If it is a no, let it be a clean no. If it is a question, let it be a question that serves the whole. If it is to walk away, walk without superiority in your mouth. This is not technique. It is trust. Be still and know that I am God. And from that stillness, the right movement comes without strain. Extend the field now. Do not confine this to the easy faces. Practice on the critic, the contrarian, the one your heart has called enemy, 5 times a day for 10 seconds. Hold that person in the light of this truth. A person without qualities, neither good nor evil as to essence, under the same government I am under. Bless them that curse you. Pray for them which despitefully use you, not as moral heroism, but as release. Remove your coronations and your condemnations from them and from yourself. Watch for the quiet turns, an unnecessary barb not sent, a door held, a correction offered in usable form, or perhaps nothing outward at all but the vanishing of a private courtroom you thought you needed to survive. Agree with thine adversary quickly by agreeing with the Christ in them and in you, and you will discover that many adversaries never materialize when you meet identity first. Keep your feet on the ground with this continuation. For the next 30 days, keep a simple daily log, not as a judge of your soul, but as a companion to your practice. Note 3 things: pauses taken, labels released, turns of harmony observed. If you like measures, keep the same ones you already have your baseline: response latency, conflicts diffused, reconciliations initiated or received, evening ease. If you prefer words to numbers, write a brief testimony each day: where I stopped, where I beheld, what changed or did not, and how peace held anyway. Write the vision and make it plain, not for display, but so that your own heart can read it when the hour is hurried. Then, choose a friend, one is enough, and meet weekly. 10 or 15 minutes will do. Share gentle testimonies, not catalogs of virtue, not analyses of failure, but the plain witness. This is where the presence went before me. This is where I forgot and then remembered. This is how the atmosphere in our house, our team, our errands, showed the word becoming flesh. Pray for one another in that simple way that does not try to fix, but to see. If a boundary was set, note it without bile. If a reconciliation came, name it without taking credit. If nothing happened, thank the invisible for governing anyway. 2 or 3 gathered in this name is enough to keep the field bright. Some of you will ask, will it hold under pressure? We have already seen that it does, but do not be superstitious. Some days the weather will be rough. You will label, you will speak sharply, you will forget your 2 beats, and then remember them when the words are already in the air. Do not build an altar to that. Return. Make amends if they are due. Repair is part of order. Then resume the rule. Stop. Turn within. Behold. Act. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. The reaping here is not applause. It is a steady heart and rooms that function. 30 days later, we can say, without boasting and without hedging, that something returned to us. What we had mislaid under habit and heat came back. The gentleness that is strength, the clarity that is not a blade, the courage to say yes and no without contempt, the joy of work that serves without burning, the hum of a household that is kinder than its to-do list would predict. Peace, not as idea, but the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, began to garrison our minds and our meetings. None of this is ours to own. All that the Father hath is mine, said the Master, and we have been letting that inheritance spend itself in our days. So we go on. Another 30. Another set of small ribbons on the fence. Another practice of blessing the hardest faces first. Another handful of seconds given so that the presence can govern an hour. We will not make a shrine of this month, nor will we forget what it proved. The law is simple. Withdraw the labels of good and evil. Behold a person without qualities. Turn within. Let the next word come. Do it again and again. The word will become flesh among us as surely as morning follows night. Thank you And so it is.